Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Evil. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with Sister Andrea's situation. I think I've been calling her Andrea. I mean, I think it's the same way. I think it's just a different pronunciation, but Andrea is basically helping David consult with this couple. Leo and Amalia. They're newlyweds. I kept wondering like where I recognize Leo from, but it's from the TV show DMZ. If you've never seen him, I was like, okay, I think that's the most recent thing I've seen him in. Don't know if I've seen him in anything else before, but that's definitely like what I recognize him from. But nevertheless, they're newlywed. Which is this the first wedding that he's officiated before? David? I don't know. I mean, it makes you almost go like, well, that's kind of, well, it makes you wonder, like, the fact is he happened to officiate this wedding, and they're the one with some demonic issues. I think it's kind of interesting, but it's basically a sex demon, and yet Andrea is the only one who recognizes, like, yeah, there's something off here, because she notices the demon trail, because she's like, okay, David, look down, he's like, I just see my shoes. She's like, no, there's a demon trail, basically like a snail trail, which is interesting to know that basically demons leave essentially a snail trail. Interesting. But I don't know what that's supposed to represent, because Andrea last season was training David up. But I don't know whether he's like, well, because his whole thing is visions, so maybe he doesn't have the full sight that she has. So either that's kind of supposed to signify like, okay, he's not as on, on the path that he once was, or is it just supposed to show like, no, she's been in his game for a while, spiritual-wise, she's stronger than he is, so she has, like, I mean, I guess everyone has their gifts. He has a gift of sight, but it's mainly visions. Maybe she's able to see the world as it currently is. David can kind of see things as the signs that God sends him, so maybe it just manifests itself in different people, different ways. So maybe Andrea having the sight that she does, it's just her. Maybe that's not supposed to be significant. Maybe there is something you can take from that. Either way, I love that she's sitting in on all of this, because obviously there are signs of things, because they have, the newlywed have like physical reactions to being around each other. He gets stomach aches, she breaks out in hives, to the point the hives start manifesting in the form of claw marks on her body. And it's like, all right, we don't have any animals, and he didn't do that to her, so where's that coming from? Andrea being like, oh yeah, it's a demon. And that demon, like, because I love Andrea's kind of poking the bear. She's like, oh, is there some intimacy issues? And the demon comes over and is like, fuck you. And then, like, later on, he's laughing at her, taunting her, and showing his ass to her. And I'm like, I love this show because it can be so weird and dark and twisted, but they have, like, fun with it. Because, I mean, the demons themselves have shown, like, whether it's George, whether it's the succubus, or whether it's this sex demon, it's like, they have so much fun with it, and I love that. That's just kind of the feel and vibe of the show, and I think they do such a good job of that. But I guess it also kind of stems from demons. What do demons do? Like, they're kind of known for fucking with you, so it's kind of like, yeah, kind of fits in their mischievous personality. So I'm like, okay, like, it kind of fits narratively speaking. But I think the show doing that, it's just playing into the notion of what a demon would do and kind of mess with you on so many levels. But I love that constantly, like, it is losing power throughout the episode, and it starts breaking down, like it loses its hand at one point in time. And so, because Andrea starts sitting in on Kristen's, like, because, David calls her in to kind of, like, see if there's, like, a psychological thing or mental thing going on here. So, she starts kind of breaking things down, and her and Andrea kind of come at an impasse. Andrea's coming at this from a spiritual standpoint. Kristen's coming at this from a psychological standpoint. And it's kind of that conflict her and David have had before. But her and David are probably more in tune on this. But, it's like, right, David's kind of stuck between the two, like, probably most important women in his life, both Andrea and Kristen. And so, like, they interacted, what was it, last episode? Like, they've never interacted before, even to the point she's like, Kristen, right? It's like, doctor, and because it's like, ma'am, it's like, no, sister, like, it's this whole, like, no, we're going to respect each other. And it's like, right, you call me sister, and Kristen's like, doctor, call me, so I love that. It's like, like I said, it's just interesting. The two important women in his life are kind of like neck and neck in this, but they kind of like put all their stuff aside and say, all right, well, let's work together. And what she is doing at first does seem like it's working against the demon, but the problem is later on, it starts being an issue because the demon gets bigger and stronger. So, and the newlyweds sex life gets super rough. It's like she's slapping him around. She's like, tell me what you want to do. Once again, I love that this show is just like, yeah, I think going to Paramount Plus, letting it go balls to the wall with this show. I said that last episode, maybe even said it in the premiere, but I think going to Paramount Plus was a good move for this show, because like they could just do whatever the hell they want. So there's an element to it. And so they like that situation got like the moment he bit her lip, I was like, oh, I thought she was gonna be into that. And she pulls out a knife. I'm like, where the fuck is this going? And she's like, right, held it to his throat, and it's like, do me right now or I'm gonna kill you. And he's like, oh, I want you so bad, I love you. And they start doing their thing, and the demon starts getting mixed up in this menage a trois. And yeah, so he's loving this whole thing too. I love that whole thing of him like kind of over there in the fetal position, be like, oh yeah, like enjoying it. So it's just kind of like, yeah, just let us go. Andrea's been like, oh, is everything really okay? And they're okay. So I guess the rougher there's like, what, I guess I wonder what was going right and what was going wrong. What was making the demon kind of slip away? Well, because obviously he was feeding off them not being able to have sex, but I guess them going on the rougher side, kind of, maybe that's them giving into, kind of, I guess removing God from the equation kind of hampered this. Well, it was kind of hampering them before, but now they kind of started getting rough. Like if it was just maybe like passionate sex, lovemaking, yeah. It's like, let's face it, this ain't just love. I mean, lovemaking can take on the form of any, you know, but it's like, that's like, that don't seem lovemaking. That's like, that's fucking, you know? So it's like, that, I think there's a very big distinction between the two. So I think maybe because they are, you know, fucking and not just like lovemaking, which, you know, once again, lovemaking can manifest itself in different ways. I mean, I think you want some like, ooh, passion and lovemaking, but sometimes you gotta, you know, bang it, like hardcore bang it out, I guess. I guess I'm curious as that what exactly in their relationship or their sexual relationship hurt him and what worked, because it seemed like Kristen was heading one direction with them, but that was hurting the demon. But then I guess, I don't know, either way, the interesting result is Leland saw this as an opportunity. I think it's interesting that he couldn't see the sex demon, and maybe that's supposed to be indicative of something, or maybe just because, like, right, he's on his path, and they can't always see each other. I mean, he saw the devil, well, before he ended up, well, I don't know if that was ever really confirmed. That was the devil, right? Or was it just like another demon that was his boss? Because yeah, it was basically middle management. I don't think that was the devil himself. Was it? I don't think so. Because he killed him and like ground him up and ate him, didn't he? I'm blanking. Like he did that whole thing last season, right? But that guy was like middle management. He wasn't like the big dog. It's just like, you know, fuck that. I'm not being taking orders from nobody else. No one's gonna like threaten me and stuff. So regardless, so that makes me wonder, is Leland not as much in the loop anymore, or is it, once again, it's just like everyone's kind of like their own little demonic cell where it's like you're not aware what everyone's up to? I think it's kind of that, like everyone acts independently for the greater cause of evil, you know, but you know, we're not all aware or privy. Or maybe, because I would have thought if Leland knew to take advantage of this, he would have seen the demon and knew to do this, but it's like, right, he didn't see anything, but he saw this as an opportunity. Andrea's kind of screwed him over more than once, so he's just kind of like, you know, this is an opportunity to take her down a peg or two. So he's like, oh, her mental health, yada yada yada, calls in David and Kristen, but then leaves Kristen in there alone and is asking for her like professional assessment. And it's like, okay, do you think she's slipping? And Kristen, I was like, okay, what's Kristen going to say? And she's like, no, she's good. I was like, because she knows what time it is. Like, regardless of anything, it's because she knows Leland's trying to fuck her over. It's like, oh, Leland's done nothing but trying to fuck me and my family over? Nah, he's not getting his way. If he wants Andrea around, that's extra reason to, kick her out. Then keeping Andrea around is extra reason if it means pissing Leland off, making sure he doesn't get his way. So I think it's also that mutual respect of like, it could be a combination of that, but also Kristen being like, nah, like we're women, we got to look after each other in the workplace. Like men kind of making a decision whether or not you're in the right mental state, like screw that. And it's like, right, sister, doctor, and just kind of go about their way. So it's like, middle fingers to Leland. That didn't work in his favor. So Andrea's still going to be kicking it around. Even if I'm sure she would have still found her way to be involved, but she's still here, and so it kind of backfired on Leland. But I think it's more so, I think both elements could be true about like, oh yeah, we're women, let's stick this out together. We're not going to let men dictate and make us turn against each other. I got your back, you got mine. But I think it's also because it's like, no, it's also that plus we're standing against Leland. He's a dick. He's an asshole. He's not going to get his way. Because Kristen can immediately see this being like, oh, this was Leland's thing. And it's like, yeah, he's not going to have his way. So that's one lane of this episode. Another lane that I thought was so fascinating is the Ben situation. I love the whole conversation between him and Kristen's kids. And they're just like, wow, you used to think we were funny. He's like, yeah, you used to be funny. And it's like, wow. Are you wearing two different shoes? They're like, Ben the Magnificent, you are a mess. And he's just like, and then like Lynn is like, you're sad. And he's like, what? She's like, yeah, basically there's like a psychological thing of like, because you can't handle the absurdity that is the reality of this world, it starts making you sad. And I think it was such a genius move. There are so many storylines in this show that were just kind of like one-offs. It's like, oh, we investigated this case and we moved on, and now it's taking its toll on Ben because he is the one that tries to rationalize everything. Kristen does too, but it hasn't like broken her down the way it has him, because she's kind of middle ground on the beliefs. Like, David leans one way, Ben's leans the other, and Kristen has always been that moderate middle ground to some extent. So, but Ben's losing his mind. He's just kind of sad because like the world doesn't make sense. How do I make sense of stuff? He even says it in the show. We investigated a case and we moved on. I love that they basically took the structure of the show, like, oh yeah, there's certain things we never got an answer to. Like, one of the things he's like, it's the angel thing. I'm like, yeah, that was a season 1 thing. We're in season 3. Never got an answer to that. Probably never will. Maybe because they brought that up and because of where Ben's story goes this season, maybe we will get some answer, or at the very least, Ben will get some closure in the fact is that him and his, sister and other people are going to be working on that, so he doesn't have to kind of deal with the maddening element of the supernatural and all that on his own. So maybe there's that key element to it. But I think that's such a genius thing to do for a story. Like, use the structure of the show, using that to their advantage. I think it's such a beautiful thing. I think that's such a smart and fun and interesting thing to do. Because I love that Ben, like, he was there trying to unclog the toilet, and then and at one point he's snaking it, and it's pulling back, and it's like, wait, what? To the point the snake ends up breaking off, and then later on a little eyeball comes up from the toilet. He flushes it and leaves, because the kids are like, oh, we should check on Ben. I think something's wrong. It's like, no. Kristen was doing her own thing, which we'll get to later. And Ben's just like, and Kristen's like, Ben, are you okay? He's like, no. So they her and David called his sister because she's concerned, and so she wanted to like take Ben out of his own head. It's like, right, we're going to go to this thing where like people like us, science people, get together, which I love that he's like, wait, there's nothing but dudes here. Are you trying to find like a husband in all this nerddom? And he's like, if one person like makes a nerd reference to me, and if someone comes up like makes a Star Trek reference, he was just almost like, really, sis? And it's just like, all right. So he got to hang around other smart people. That dude who was like, oh, you need to blow something up within the next 3 minutes. That guy, wasn't he just in the end game? I think that might be the same actor. I think he was. I think so. Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't remember the character's name now. I think that was the most recent thing I saw him in, but maybe I'm misremembering. Either way, I love the fact is that Ben's kind of like, right, I needed this. But it comes down to that situation of he's asking his sister for help. It's like, I need you to help me investigate some of this stuff that doesn't make sense. She's kind of equating things kind of like God, because for her it's like, right, I don't need to like see to believe, because things are just facts of the world. Because yes, there are just things we don't understand yet, but it's like God doesn't fall in that category, because for her, like, God is a truth. But for Ben, it's like, I can't see anything. He's like, yeah. She's like, this thing we're looking at, how can you say that's not a deep thing? So how can you ever say like what's real and what's true? Like, you can't really apply that to everything, but that's how Ben accepts this world. So his sister like comes over and it's like, right, we're going to investigate this stuff. If we don't get it, then we're going to bring it to everyone back at that place, which Ben comes back and now he's actually refreshed. He's like, yeah, because even David's like, yo, you seem different. He's like, yeah, the madness of the world, it's kind of been, he's been shouldering a lot of this since season 1, because he even referenced like, oh yeah, my girlfriend and her twin, which we have not circled back to that in a while. So I'm surprised. So I guess you guys are still a couple, because you still refer to her as your girlfriend and not your ex. So when it turns out you were sleeping with her twin, we never got a resolution after that. I don't think we ever like came back to that. I guess it's like maybe his girlfriend forgave him. It was like, yeah, my twin was fucking with you, so like obviously I'm not going to like hold that against you. I don't know. Maybe we'll get once again a lot of resolutions to some of those earlier mysteries. Maybe we'll circle back to in this season, including that. I hope we do. But Ben seems like he's in a good place for now. God forbid if like that castle of cards comes crashing down again, because I feel bad for Ben if it does. But he seems he's in a good place for now. So, the other side of the episode deals with Cheryl, which ties in a little bit with Kristen and her kids. It's like, cool. Apparently, Lynn wanted to punish Lexus for telling about the whole Ren thing, but it's like, well, it was a good thing in the end because you helped resolve that. It's like your sister just told the truth, told what I told her to do, but it's like, oh, she only did it to hurt me. Lex is like, how do you even come to that conclusion? So they're bickering back and forth. I even love at one point, it's like, okay, you guys stay here, and one of her kids are like, what you gonna do, hit us? You know? And it's like the youngest being like, I didn't even do anything wrong. The back and forth. So we're making 10 commandments. It's like, but aren't the church says there are already 10 commandments? Yes, but you already don't listen to those. So like basically never ever lie to mom. If Leland contacts you, tell mom. And she's like, they're like, well, a lot of these are built around you, mom. And it's like, she's like, yes, because until you're 18, I'm the most important thing until like I kick you out of the house. So yes. I even love them making excuses like, yeah, but what if they're Jewish people in the basement? Or what was the other example they used? Oh yeah, like Donald Trump and like immigrants or something like that. It's like, all right, well then we'll modify it as things kind of go. You know, it's kind of like a case by case basis. But her daughters are little negotiators. I love it. Those little rapscallions. But yeah. They also came up with their own rules, which Cheryl ends up using because it's like, right, influence the influencer. And another element from before that we're bringing back, Melendez. I can't remember if we've seen her post, like her making her apology and then still doing her thing. Wasn't that last season or was that season 1? Once again, so much stuff blurs together. I swear that was I'm fairly certain that was a season 2 episode. Do correct me in the comments down below. But I think that's the last time we saw her, because we know Leland was backing her. Like, doing all that she was doing, it was because of Leland. So, I don't think we've seen her since. Because Cheryl is supposed to be, which obviously we start getting into that complicated territory. For one, I love that part of Cheryl's story being like, oh yeah, it's a crypto story, but it's also like that generational boomer versus millennial. Which I'm also surprised we didn't add in any Zoomers into that element, too. Because you'd feel like this would be more of a... I mean, if anything, it'd be like... Because, I mean, millennials get treated like the new boomers by Zoomers. So that's the like, crazy thing about it to me. You know? If you're curious, I am a millennial, age-wise. Because isn't it like... I think it's like... Because I'm 29. So, well, literally about to be 30 in a couple days. But I want to say it's like in an 85 or 85 to like 87 is like the cutoff for older millennials, I believe. So I think like at least my second oldest sister would still count as a millennial, depending on when that cutoff is. I feel like it's somewhere like between 85 and 87 till about like, isn't it 90 something or is it like, yeah, I think it's like 90 something, whatever the case may be. Either way, I just felt like that would have been a Zoomer to millennial conversation, not even adding a boomer element to it. But Cheryl, I guess, does count as a boomer, but I'm surprised most of the people working here are millennials and not just Zoomers, but maybe because they're just not quite old enough there yet. But either way, the disrespect that she's like, okay, Taylor, could you get people together? She's like, yeah, sure. Okay, boomer. You're like, bringing back that meme, because I think it's one of those memes that kind of died. But I mean, it's probably like still very prominent when they wrote this season. Still, it adds that more disrespect to it too, because it's like, you little piece of shit, the meme's dead and you're still using it. Fuck you. It kind of like it make you. Even I had to be like, oh, fuck you for saying that. Go fuck yourself. Like, I've never been like into the whole like, okay, boomer. It's like, oh, pop culture is fucking weird. Nevertheless. Taylor was so disrespectful on home. Dude was like, oh, you go back in there and you that's so demeaning, him being like, oh yeah, you go back in there and shop and let us run things, boomer. And I'm like, you little piece of shit. Like, I will strangle you. What? If I was her, I would strangle that bastard. But Cheryl gets her revenge because she brings in Melendez. Melendez pushes and once again, that's a whole conversation in itself in the crypto space. I'm like, oh yeah, let's almost kind of a pump and dump. It's like, oh yeah, put all your money into this fake coin that doesn't matter. Which I'm like, I guess I love the evil element of it. Oh yeah, that's pure evil. But it's like, yeah, dump all your money, like make this coin that is not valuable at all valuable. So, and then Cheryl does her does her thing. It's like, oh, Taylor, come in here. Oh, did you get that chocolate I gave you? It's like, oh yeah, I looked it up and I found out you have like a specific nut allergy. Yeah, it's in that candy. Oh, don't worry, I got your EpiPen right here. It's like, okay, you're gonna sign, because she basically, Cheryl can't fire her and she won't quit. So Cheryl kind of made her kind of sign out. And it's like, oh, cool. And I love she's in the elevator, like her throat closing up. And she's like, I know, I'm getting choked up about goodbyes too. It's like, don't worry, your card will be like retracted and your stuff will be sent to you. And it's like, okay. And tells home dude, it's like, okay, everyone's got a weakness. Don't make me find yours. And he's like, okay. She's like, now get back to work. Faster, you fucking millennial. And you're like, yeah, if it wasn't for evil, I'd cheer a little bit more for you, Cheryl. But on a personal level, fuck those guys. That I'm kind of like, all right, I'm petty. So when I, like, you know, the petty victory, is it the moral victory? No, because like Cheryl's in that not so moral area right now, especially because she's kicking with Leland and all they're up to. But it's in that territory of just kind of like, yeah, the petty victory. You're kind of like, I can always support the petty victory, especially in this regard. That's the only reason why I'm supporting Cheryl, but still, love that element to the episode. I am so excited to see where the next episode takes us. This whole crypto coin thing, you know, it's going to be a prominent thing in the background. It probably won't fully come around, but obviously, like, there's the whole thing with everything with Andy from last episode, that coming back around, the fucking toilet situation in their house. Like, obviously those are going to be major through lines. Like, how the toilet thing is definitely going to be a major through line. I don't know when in the season that's going to end up getting resolved, because I think I looked it up just based on, like, I think it was on Wikipedia I saw. I think this season's only 10 episodes, which I thought was kind of interesting. Both previous seasons were 13, so that's interesting that this is a slightly shorter season. So we'll see. Probably things will probably happen faster because of that, because it is potentially, once again, that's just one place I saw that, so I don't know if that's 100% true, but typically Wikipedia is pretty up to date about like how many episodes are going to be in a season. But I think, like I said, I think I saw there's only going to be 10 this season, so I'm very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good